I didn't come here to scare you. I came here because what I was shown needed to be said, and today I need to talk about a survival garden. I know it's not something everyone wants to hear, but it's something we really need to talk about seriously. With everything that's happening in the world right now, this can no longer be ignored. I was on my fourth day of fasting when God showed me something I can't keep to myself. 4 days without food, just in His presence, and He showed me a list of trees. And along with that list came a very clear message. Plant this now, because a time of scarcity is coming, and those who haven't planted will miss it. I came straight here because this had to be said yesterday. It's not theory, it's not pretty pulpit talk, it was real. And I can't stay quiet knowing what I was shown and seeing you without this information. Look, maybe you already have some of these trees at home without even knowing the value of what you have. Pecan, almond, walnut, apple, fig, peach, blackberry, grape, pear. Maybe you look at your yard right now and see one of these. And maybe you do too, because they are simple plants that many people have around and don't know what they have. But you need to watch this video until the end. Because what was shown to me isn't about having a beautiful garden. It's about real survival. It's about having food when everything else is lacking. It's about your family not going hungry. These are trees that don't need a lot of space. They don't need a lot of money. They don't need complicated care. Anyone can plant them. It doesn't matter if you have a huge backyard or a small space. It doesn't matter if you live in an apartment or on a farm. There are trees on this list that fit in a 5-liter bucket, and yet they produce more fruit than you can eat. That's what impressed me when God showed me each one. The simplicity. How accessible it is, how anyone can do this now, and still have abundant fruit exactly when everything is lacking, exactly when the market is empty. So stay until the end because I'm going to talk about each tree on this list, one by one, just as it was shown to me, and each one I mention can change what will be on your table when hard times come. And they are coming. Go to the comments now and tell me, do you have any of these trees at home? Do you already plant anything? Prove me wrong if you think I'm wrong, because everything I'm going to talk about here is what was shown to me during that fast, tree by tree, and we're going to talk about each one. Number 1 on the list I was shown, a nut tree. Pecan, almond, walnut, macadamia, hazelnut. You need to have any of these. It doesn't matter which one you plant, but you need to plant some. Because in a situation of scarcity, nuts are protein, they're good fat, they're energy. They're the kind of thing you won't easily find when everything else is scarce. And a tree like that produces for decades. You plant it once and it feeds your family for years. You plant it today and your children will still be eating from it. That's what I was shown about nuts. Plant once, harvest forever. That's priceless. No supermarket gives you that. No government guarantees that. You have to plant it yourself. I know everyone's going to talk about the black walnut tree. If you have space for a black walnut tree, go ahead, but do your research first. Research and studies show that its root system makes the soil toxic. You can't plant anything else around a black walnut tree. Nothing grows near it, the soil becomes compromised. So think carefully before planting one, because in a survival garden, you need to make the most of every inch. You can't have a tree that kills everything around it. Go ahead and research this and prove me wrong in the comments, because everything I'm reading says so. Everything I've been shown confirms it. You need trees that work together, not trees that destroy what's around them. Now, pecans are different. Pecans are number 1 on my list for a reason. They produce a lot, they produce quickly, and they don't compete with their surroundings. You plant a pecan tree in a reasonable space, and it will give you more nuts than you can eat. More than your family can eat, more than you can give as gifts. That's the level of production I'm talking about. And it doesn't need excessive care. You don't need to constantly monitor it. It grows, it produces, it feeds you. Simple as that. I'm not making this up. This is what I've been shown, and this is what I'm experiencing. Plant a pecan tree and you won't regret it. Almonds, walnuts, macadamia nuts, hazelnuts, all in the same category. Each of these has an incredible nutritional value. Protein, good fats, vitamins, minerals. In times of scarcity, you won't be thinking about elaborate menus. You'll be thinking about energy to get through the day, and nuts give you that. A handful of nuts sustains you for hours. It's real fuel for a difficult time. And once again, you plant once and it produces for decades. Your generation plants, the next generation harvests. That's what was shown to me during that fast. that we need to think beyond tomorrow. We need to plant thinking about our children, our grandchildren, about whoever comes after. Now I know what you're thinking, but I don't have room for a big tree, and I understand that, but look, there are varieties of almond and hazelnut trees that fit in a small space. They grow upwards, not outwards, so you're not losing square footage, you're gaining food in vertical space. That's what caught my attention when I was shown this, how efficient these trees are, how much they produce in relation to the space they occupy. You don't need a farm, you need wisdom to use the space you have. And these trees give you exactly that. Plant anyone from this list and plant it now. We're just starting this list. There are many more trees that were shown to me during that fast. And each one I talk about will make more sense than the last. It's here because number 2 on this list is one of the most important there is. Almost everyone already has it nearby without knowing its value. God didn't show anything by chance during that fast. Each of these plants has a purpose. Each has a reason for being here. And I'm going to talk about each one the way it was shown to me, without inventing anything, without embellishing anything, just as it was. Number 2, apples. I don't care what kind of apple you plant, the variety doesn't matter, you'll never go wrong planting an apple tree. And let me tell you why. On just one apple tree, you'll have far more apples than you can eat. Second, it produces quickly, it grows super fast, you'll probably be eating apples in the first or third year. So it will produce a lot, it will produce quickly, and the more mature the apple tree gets, the more food you'll have to store, to eat, to preserve, to do whatever you want with. And that's exactly what was shown to me during that fast. That the apple is not just a fruit, it's a resource. It's currency in a time of scarcity. And here's another thing about apples. You can turn apple juice into anything. You can turn apple juice into vinegar, which is medicinal. You can turn it into cider, which is great to drink. You can turn it into beer, you can turn it into alcohol. All of that is also medicinal if used correctly. Apples are basic, they're fundamental. If you don't have an apple tree in your yard or on your land, you need to plant one today. That's important to me, that's what I was shown. I could stay here talking about apples all the time, pies, preserves, everything you can imagine, but you get the point. I'm not just talking about eating fresh fruit. I'm talking about a resource that you transform into other things. In times of scarcity, whoever has apples has bargaining power. Whoever has apples has medicine. Whoever has apples has fermented drinks that can be used for hygiene, for health, for bartering. That's what impressed me when God showed me the apple during that fast. It wasn't just the fruit, it was everything it represents. It was everything it can become in your hands when you know what you have. And most people don't know what they have when they have an apple tree. With an apple tree, you can do anything. You can store it, preserve it, sell it, trade it, use it for medicinal purposes. And look at the size of all that, coming from just one tree, from a small space in your backyard. You don't need much space for an apple tree. It grows upwards, not outwards. And the older it is, the more it produces. It's not something that diminishes over time, it's something that grows. Year after year, it gets stronger and produces more. That's what I want you to understand about apples. They are an investment that only appreciates in value. And you know what else caught my attention when this was shown to me? That an apple doesn't need much to survive. It doesn't need perfect soil. It doesn't need a perfect climate. It doesn't need specialized care. It has its difficulties like any tree, but most of the time it takes care of itself. You don't need to be a scientist to take care of an apple tree. You don't need a lot of money to plant an apple tree. You need decision making. You need to act now while there's still time to plant before what's coming. The apple was on this list for a very clear reason. When everything else is lacking, when the market is empty, when the price is too high, the apple tree in your backyard will be producing. Silent, constant, faithful, just as God created it to be. And I'm not making this up. I'm passing on what was shown to me during that fast, tree by tree, reason by reason. Each one has its place on this list, and we still have much more to talk about. Stay here because the next one on the list is one that produces year-round. And when I talk about that, you'll understand why it was in this vision. Plant a fig tree in your survival garden. And let me tell you why. In a small space, you'll eat tons of fruit all season long if you choose the right fig tree for your region. Figs produce and produce and produce all year round, depending on the variety you plant. I have 2 fig trees, and since spring, I've been eating from both of them every day, literally every day. One has already finished, but the other, even now at the end of August, is still producing. Every day I go there and a few more are ripe. That's what I was shown about figs during that fast, that they don't stop, that they are constant, that when everything else is lacking, the fig tree will be there producing. Now let me give you an important tip about fig trees. Try to find a fig tree with continuous production, because it fruits all season long. If you have a long growing season, it never stops fruiting. That's the maximum amount of fruit you can get from a small space. And when I say small space, I mean it. These trees grow upwards, so it's food going upwards. You're not wasting square footage. You're taking advantage of the vertical space that most people completely ignore. And in a survival garden, every centimeter counts, every direction counts, every tree needs to work for you. And there's one more thing about all the trees I'm talking about here. You can easily duplicate them. A fig tree cutting, you cut a branch, stick it in the ground, and literally next year you have a tree. It's that simple. That's what impressed me when God showed me each tree during that fast. It wasn't just the fruit it bears, it was the ease of multiplication. In a time of scarcity, you can't keep buying seedlings from nurseries. You need trees that you can multiply yourself with what you already have. And the fig tree is exactly that. Vitamins, minerals, energy, figs have it all. And it's not just for eating. Dried figs, preserved figs, fermented figs. You can preserve them, you can store them, you can have a stockpile. In difficult times, stockpiles are everything. Stockpiles are what separate those who are doing well from those who are suffering. And a well-cared-for fig tree gives you enough fruit to eat fresh and still have some left over to store. That's what I was shown, that these trees aren't just for satisfying hunger during the day. They're for building reserves. They're for when your neighbor doesn't have any. They're so your family doesn't depend on anyone. I'm not making this up. This is what was shown to me during that fast, tree by tree, detail by detail, and the fig tree was on that list for a very clear reason. It's reliable. It doesn't abandon you mid-season. It doesn't need much to produce. It doesn't need rich soil. It doesn't need expensive fertilizer. It doesn't need specialized care. You plant it, you take minimal care of it, and it produces. Simple as that. And in a time of scarcity, simplicity is gold. You won't have the time or resources to complicate things. You'll need trees that work for you without you having to work too hard for them. The fig tree was in that vision, and it had to be. When I saw that tree being shown during that fast, I immediately understood why it was there. It's one of the oldest trees in the Bible, and that's no coincidence. Adam and Eve used fig leaves, Jesus cursed a fig tree, the prophets spoke of fig trees. This tree has a significance that goes beyond the fruit it bears. And it was on that list. Plant a fig tree. It doesn't matter where you live, it doesn't matter the size of your space. There's a variety of fig for every situation. Plant one and you won't regret it. We still have many more trees to talk about, and each one that comes next is more important than the last. My God, this should have been number one or something. Peach. Plant peach trees in your survival garden, because even a small peach tree will give you more fruit than you can eat. And just like apples, you can do exactly the same things with peaches. You can pick them straight from the tree and eat them fresh. You can preserve them, you can make jams and sweets, but you can also make wine and other things of that nature. Peaches are abundant, you don't need much knowledge to grow them, and there's not much that wants to destroy a peach tree. It has its problems like any tree does, but most of the time it takes care of itself. You don't need to be a scientist to take care of a peach tree. That's what I was shown about the peach during that fast. That it's generous, that it gives a lot with little, that anyone can have one. You don't need to constantly tend to a peach tree. You need to keep an eye on it, but most of the time it works for you. And that's exactly what you need in a survival garden. You won't have the time or energy to be drooling over every tree when hard times come. You'll need trees that produce without you having to spend all your resources on them. And the peach tree is exactly that. It produces a lot, it produces well, and it doesn't cost you dearly. Plant a peach tree and you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm not making this up, this is what I've been shown, and this is what I'm experiencing. After the peach comes the apricot. The apricot falls into this same category because you care for an apricot practically the same way you care for a peach. Super small, compact tree, abundant production, tons of fruit. And you can do exactly the same things you do with a peach. I particularly love dried apricots. That's concentrated vitamin and mineral content. You dry the apricot and you have a dense, nutritious food that lasts a long time when stored. In times of scarcity, food that lasts is strategic. Food that you can store for months without needing a refrigerator, without needing electricity, that's what will make the difference. It's not just about eating, it's for your health. That's what was shown to me during that fast when God showed me each tree, that it wasn't just about satisfying hunger, it was about keeping the body functioning during a difficult time. Vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, everything your body needs to stay strong when stress is high, when food is limited, when routine no longer exists. These fruits have exactly what your body will need at this moment. And that was in that vision for a reason. God cares about your body as much as he cares about your soul. And look at the size of the apricot tree. It's a small, compact tree that fits in any space. Like a peach tree, it won't take up your entire yard. It grows in a controlled way, produces a lot in a small space, and doesn't need excessive care. You can have an apricot tree and a peach tree in the same space you would have a large tree. That's what caught my attention when I saw it. The efficiency of these trees. How much they produce in relation to the space and care they require. In a survival garden, efficiency is everything. Every centimeter has to work for you. Every tree has to justify the space it occupies. Peaches and apricots were together in this vision, and it makes perfect sense. They are two trees that complement each other, that produce abundantly, that don't ask for much, and that give you real resources in difficult times. Fresh fruit, preserves, jam, wine, dried fruit, there are multiple ways to use what these trees produce. And when everything is lacking, you'll want to have as many options as possible. You'll want to be able to eat in different ways, preserve in different ways, store in different ways, plant a peach, plant an apricot, and plant now. We still have many trees to talk about, and each one that comes is part of what was shown to me during that fast. Now, one of the biggest trees you need to plant on your land, no matter what, a mulberry tree. If you plant a mulberry tree, you'll have enough fruit for the first 2 years for you, your family, the birds, the squirrels, and everything that can climb that tree to eat. If you plant a mulberry tree, you'll eat for months. And I'll tell you something, try to find a mulberry tree with continuous production because it fruits all season long. If you have a long season, it never stops fruiting. That's the maximum amount of fruit you can get from a small space. And when I say small, I mean really small. These trees grow upwards, not outwards. It's food going upwards. You're not wasting square footage of your space. That's what I was shown about the mulberry tree during that fast. That it's incredibly generous, that it gives to everyone, and there's still some left over. And there's one more thing about the mulberry tree that impressed me when it was being shown. You can duplicate it in the simplest way possible. A mulberry cutting, you cut that branch, stick it in the ground, and literally next year you have a new tree. It's that simple. This is strategic in a time of scarcity. You won't need to spend money buying seedlings. You won't need to depend on a nursery. You multiply what you have yourself, and the following year you have double. That's what God was showing during that fast about these trees, that they were created to multiply easily in the hands of those who care for them. Now, blackberries, if you have space, plant blackberries in the ground and let them spread. They will spread across your land and you'll never be without fruit for the rest of your life. And I'm not kidding about that. Plant any variety of blackberry you want. They spread. So if you don't want them to take over your yard because you have limited space, you can plant them in a 5-liter bucket. I showed this in a video here. I have them growing in 2 5-liter buckets and they produce more fruit than we can eat. I wouldn't believe it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. They produce more fruit than you know what to do with a tiny little plant in a bucket. I'm not making this up. Try to find a blackberry that produces continuously and you'll eat well. Now raspberries in my area are a bit more demanding. It took a while for them to really start producing well. I'd say it took about 3 or 4 years for the raspberry to really get into the swing of things. So plant raspberries, but depending on your area, be prepared to wait a bit. If you're in a colder climate, your raspberries will take root quickly. But here where I am, they really don't like this temperature very much. But blackberries are different. Blackberries take root immediately. You'll be eating fruit from a 1-liter container, I'm not kidding. At 5 centimeters tall, they're already fruiting. That's what I've been shown, that there are fruits that don't wait, that start producing almost immediately. That's what caught my attention when God showed me those red fruits during that fast. The speed, Most of the trees I was shown, you wait 1, 2, 3 years. But the blackberry doesn't make you wait. It starts, producing almost immediately. And in a time of scarcity, speed matters. You can't wait 5 years to harvest. You'll need rapid production along with long-term production. And that's why this list has variety. There are trees that produce quickly, there are trees that produce for decades. You need both. You need fruit now and you need fruit in 10 years. This list gives you both. Blackberries, mulberries, raspberries, all of these were in this vision and all have their place. They are fruits that take up little space, produce abundantly, are easily multiplied, and give you concentrated vitamins and minerals at a time when your food supply will be limited. It's not just about satisfying hunger, it's about keeping your body strong, your immunity high, your energy up when times are tough. Plant these fruits, plant them now, because we still have grapes, pears, persimmons, and much more to talk about. And each one that comes next was shown for a reason. God didn't put anything on this list by chance. Grapes. If you have space for a grapevine, I suggest you plant one, because with a grapevine, you'll have tons of fruit in a super small space. You're probably thinking, but won't that need a lot of space to grow? No, it doesn't. I proved that years ago. You don't need to plant your grapevine in the ground. You don't necessarily need to build a trellis across your entire yard. That's what farmers do. And I've already made a video saying that farmers, homesteaders, and backyard gardeners are completely different. If you're a farmer, go ahead, you have space to make that long vineyard. But if you're a backyard gardener or homesteader, you can do it however you want. Years ago, I showed here that I put a grapevine in a 17-liter barrel, put chicken wire around it, and produced tons of grapes. It can be done. I did it. I proved it. I showed you. And I regret selling those grapevines because, my God, but the point is, you can grow grapes because they continue to produce tons with minimal energy. And that's what a survival garden is all about. Smaller spaces, minimal energy, giving you the biggest possible harvest. If you can produce more than the energy you put into it, that's helping you in your survival garden. That's what was shown to me about grapes during that fast. That they produce a lot with little. That they are efficient. That they don't charge you dearly for what they deliver. And in a time of scarcity, efficiency is what will separate those who have food from those who don't. Wait a minute, don't even get me started. If you can plant a pear tree, I'll talk about my most indestructible tree, the one I call my tank, the Oriental pear tree. If you're going to plant pears, it doesn't matter what variety you plant, but if you want a pear tree that's disease-free, that animals don't bother, that practically needs nothing, that's your tree. I don't know what's in that tree, but it's flawless. It might be one of the only truly flawless trees I have. Plant a pear tree on your land because in a small space you'll have more fruit than you know what to do with. I'm talking about preserving, conserving, eating fresh, selling to generate income. You'll have more food than you know what to do with in about 3 years. If we're talking about 5 years, you won't know what to do with so much fruit. What impressed me most when the pear tree was shown during that fast was its resilience. Its durability. In times of scarcity, you won't have the money to replace dead trees, you won't have the energy to treat plant diseases, you won't have the resources to chase after pest solutions. You'll need trees that stand when everything around them is falling, and the pear tree is exactly that. It stands, it produces, it doesn't ask for much in return. It's the kind of tree God created to last, and that's why it was on this list. It wasn't by chance. It has a reason for being here, and that reason is resilience. Now persimmons, Asian persimmons, and Native American persimmons. The native ones are the round ones that fall to the ground and are very sweet, but if you eat them too soon, they'll make your mouth pucker. Native persimmon trees produce tons of fruit, tons. They call them deer candy, but for some reason deer love the native ones and completely ignore the Asian ones. I have 6 Asian persimmons and deer walk by without taking a bite. I've never even seen a bite mark on any of my Asian persimmons. But there's an important tip about Asian persimmons. They grow very slowly at first. You'll see that at the beginning, it seems like nothing is happening. But by the 2nd or 3rd year, it's like they've put rocket fuel in them. They take off, grow fast, and soon you have more fruit than you know what to do with. Your part-time job will be to conserve, preserve, dry, and freeze all the fruit you'll have if you do what I'm saying, and start your survival garden with these trees. Grapes, pears, persimmons, they were all in this vision for a reason. Each has a characteristic that will be essential in a time of scarcity. Grapes produce a lot with little space and little energy. Pears are indestructible and produce for decades. Persimmons start slowly, but once they get going, they don't stop. They are three different tree profiles that together cover any scenario. Plant all three. Plant them now. Because we're reaching the end of this list, and the last chapter closes everything that was shown to me during that fast. Hey everyone, I think we've covered everything. Let me quickly recap: walnut tree, apple, fig, peach, apricot, blackberry, raspberry, grape, pear, persimmon. I'm growing all of that. Everything I've mentioned here today are things I'm personally growing. This is no joke. I can't talk about anything I don't know or haven't grown before. I'm only talking about things I have growing on my land right now or that I've grown in the past. Practically everything on that list I'm growing now. And that's exactly what was shown to me during that 4-day fast. Not a theoretical list, not a pretty concept, but real trees that anyone can plant that will feed their family when everything else is lacking. This is real, this is now. Now there are things I haven't mentioned here because I've never fully produced them myself. If you can grow avocados in your area, it's essential, because you get a lot of fruit from a small tree. If you can grow mangoes in your area, grow mangoes because that's survival food. But I only talk about what I've grown and been very successful with. That's why I haven't talked about my avocados, my mangoes, or anything I've never fully produced myself. Because what was shown to me during that fast were these trees. The ones I know, the ones I live with, the ones I harvest with my own hands. And if God showed me these, it's because anyone can plant them. You don't need a specialist. You don't need a farm. You don't need a lot of money. And what stayed with me most from that fast, the simplicity. God didn't show me a complicated solution. He showed me trees. Simple things that humanity has been planting for thousands of years. Things that don't need technology, don't need electricity, don't need the internet to function. When the power goes out, these trees will continue producing. When the market closes, these trees will continue producing. When money can no longer buy anything, these trees will continue producing. That's what impressed me, the independence of these plants. The way they were created to sustain humankind regardless of the surrounding circumstances. I didn't come here to scare you. I came here because what was shown to me had to be said. 4 days of fasting, only in the presence of God, and He showed me this list. It wasn't by chance, it wasn't a random dream, it was a clear instruction: go and speak, and I am speaking. Because if you've watched this video this far, it wasn't by chance either. You were destined to hear this today. You are destined to receive this information now, while there's still time to act, while there's still time to plant, while time is still on your side, because whoever plants now will harvest when everyone else is looking for where to buy. So what you do with this information is up to you. I did my part. I brought what was shown to me, tree by tree, detail by detail, exactly as it was given to me during that fast, without inventing anything, without embellishing anything. Now the decision is yours. Will you plant or will you wait? Will you act now or will you leave it for later? Because the later that is coming will not be the same as today. The time that is coming will be different, and those who prepared will be at peace, while those who did not prepare will be in panic. It doesn't have to be like that. You have the information now. You know what to plant. You know why to plant. Now plant, and before I go, I need to make one. Thing very clear. Everything I brought here today, every tree, every detail, every instruction, came from God. It wasn't my intelligence, it wasn't my research, it wasn't my knowledge. It was Him. And the Bible already said this in Proverbs 6. Go to the ant and consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer or ruler, yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest. God has always had a plan to sustain His people, always, from the Garden of Eden until today. He knows what is coming, He sees what we do not see, and when He takes a servant out of comfort for 4 days of fasting to show a list of trees, it's not madness, it's mercy, it's a warning, it's love. Plant, care for, trust. Because the same God who sustained Joseph in Egypt, who fed Elijah in the desert, who multiplied the loaves and fishes, that same God is telling you today, plant, and He will make it grow. God bless you. Until next time, peace.